Okay, folks, so I want you to know, let me make sure the volume is where it needs to be. And if it is a little low, please feel free to crank it up. That's not a command, it's just something that's meant to be helpful. So I do recognize and understand that this video is being done out of sequence. And what I mean is that typically what I would do is I would do a video on the full moon in Sagittarius on June the 17th before I would tackle the new moon, which happens to be a new moon solar eclipse in Cancer on July the 2nd. Am I losing my mind? I think it is July the 2nd. It is July the 2nd, of course. And of course, after July the 2nd, we have the full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn. So the eclipses are upon us in July. And I'm referring to it as make or break time to a number of people in a number of different types of communications, because it's getting there, and I think we're all starting to feel that pressure. It's what starts to happen when we get to that eclipse time period. And I will do a video on the full moon in Sagittarius, but as full moons go, it's a relatively benign full moon. There is not too much good. There's not going to be that much to say regarding it, but there'll be something to say, and we'll revisit it. But the reason why I want to start talking about, the reason why I would much rather actually spend some time talking about the solar eclipse in Cancer, and indeed some of the planets moving into Leo, is because they are more momentous and more important. It's going to help us to know what's going on there. Why? Because a couple of planets have already moved into Cancer. Mars came in here on May the 15th, and Mercury came in here on June the 4th. So we've already got, in advance of the sun coming in here and then having a new moon eclipse later on in June, we've already got planets and activity in the eclipse areas starting to give us a sense of what the eclipses are going to be about. Now, before I dive in so that I can demystify all this, I've done 2 videos recently, one on birth charts so that you know where it is that you can get copies of your birth charts for free from me for a certain fee, other sources, whatever it is. And if you're interested in knowing where the signs of Cancer and Capricorn and Leo fall in your chart, you have a way to get there. Do you absolutely need that? Not necessarily. Use these videos the way you want to use them. But if you are interested in really trying to pinpoint where it is that the activity is happening, that could be a video to refer to. I will put a link to that video at the end of this video. If you come to this video and you watch it, and there is no text in the description area on YouTube and no videos at the end of it to link to, just know that I'm still processing the video. When I complete a video, it processes on YouTube, it uploads on YouTube automatically. Once it's done uploading, then I go in and tinker around with it a little bit. So if you get notified that the video is done, it's true. And if you go in and some of this work stuff is not done, particularly text in the description area and links to other videos at the end, just know that I'm still working on it. Just come back, and you can always scroll right back to the end and click on the links that are important. The second video I did recently was talking about new moons and full moons and eclipses to get some of the basics out of the way in terms of what is actually going on at this time. And so I will put a link to that at the end of this as well. There are dogs in the neighborhood that must be so excited about the fact that I am doing this video and want you to know that it is important. So I apologize on their behalf, but I'm going to pretend that they're excited that I'm communicating this information to you. An eclipses are the most important astrological events in a year. I'm not the only person who says that. I believe it. And eclipses are a time when God takes the wheel and fated events occur. Some people I've recently noticed are using the word an acceleration of events. Yeah. And we have only so much control over where it is that eclipses are going to take us. I've used this analogy before, but when eclipses occur, there is a tendency for a need for change and a direction to move in, but confusion around what the final solution will be. And 10 doors appear and you have to knock like crazy on all 10. 9 you will keep knocking on and the door will never open, and the one that you're meant to go through, you will barely walk up to it and the door will swing open. It'll have that, but you have to contend with what is being brought in front of you. Are my hands dirty? No, they're not. So eclipses also occur in opposite parts of the chart. One, an area of the chart that you're meant to lean into that is helpful for you in terms of your development and evolution, and one where you're meant to release something that is no longer serving you, that you're meant to leave behind but you might be holding on to. The eclipses of release are happening in the sign of Capricorn, and January the 5th of this year to July the 16th, a solar eclipse and a corresponding lunar eclipse on July the 16th are one discrete cycle. And quite frankly, if you were to say, Abhi, what are we really feeling right now? We're feeling a little bit of this handoff and relay race, but it's really the July 16th lunar eclipse that is acting as a magnet, because there's an intensification there and there's a desire to close out this 6-month cycle. So part of the pressure cooker that we are actually feeling is not so much related to the July 2nd eclipse, although there we're getting portents and preparation and a stage setting and preparation. But the pressure cooker feeling is really coming related to events that have been in flow since January the 5th, and the dates for that are important. One other thing I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start putting dates I refer to in the description area. There was a time when YouTube would allow you to add a slide to a video through the YouTube editing mechanism, and it is, I don't see it available, I don't think it is available anymore, etc., etc. You can do it offline and then upload. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put dates. I'm going to start to put dates and some information in the description area because it'll help you, I think. You don't have to scribble like crazy. You can also scribble like crazy. It can be helpful. So the eclipses that we are currently under, January the 5th, March the 5th, May the 16th, and July the 16th are important dates. And when I say those dates, I don't mean too far off from those dates. I mean the week after the week before. Now, let's talk about the July 2nd eclipse in Cancer, because this video is really being done to talk about the Cancer eclipses. And there's really only so much information I want to share about it so that you can sit with this and digest it. There are 3 eclipse cycles in Cancer that are underway, and we're going to be going into the second one. The first intimation of what it is that we're meant to lean into and tackle may well have come to you between July the 12th of 2018 and September 12th of 2018. July 12th, 2018, the week before the week after. September 12th, 2018, the week before week after. I would advise you to go back. You know, some people are coming to these videos now and they're like, what am I supposed to do? I'm supposed to go back and remember. If this doesn't resonate for you, pass by and let's pick you up and get you back into this where you're coming in. But those of you who might be able to go back to July 12th or September 12th or around that time and think about momentous things or things that came up, jot them down, get a sense of it, etc., 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 so you can see where it is the things are coming up that are of relevant interest. I, for example, happen to have a sense of Donald Trump's chart as long as his birth time is accurate online, and it was right after the July 12th eclipse that crap hit the fan by virtue of him actually going to St. Petersburg or wherever he was, and he and Putin actually met. Prior to that, whatever was being discussed or conjecture suddenly collapsed into place, as though what is going on here, there is, it created. It was the week after July the 12th. I couldn't make it up, and I know where the eclipses was happening in this chart, and I thought, okay, here it is. Bam. And eclipses have a tendency to kind of have that kind of lightning, well, not lightning. As I said, God takes the wheel. They're big transits. They're they're not chapter turns. It can be the end of a book, you know, like, as I've given this analogy before, like a Tolstoy novel. There are 35 chapters in one book, and the entire novel consists of 12 books. It is the end of a period, and the end of this period is really going to come next year, but these are important markers. So clue number 1 when it comes to the Cancer solar eclipse on January the 2nd is that it occurred on July the 12th of last year, and the dates that are relevant are important would be July the 12th and September the 12th of 2018, the week before and week after. Point number 2. Why am I doing this video now? I'm doing this video now because Mars came in here on May the 15th. Yes. By here I mean in the sign of Cancer. So wherever Cancer is in your chart, wherever this eclipse is occurring, and occurred on July the 12th of last year. The reason why I say September the 12th, as I've explained in my eclipse videos, is I look with a solar eclipse to 2 months after the solar eclipse. So that date is important too. And with the lunar eclipse, I look to 2 months before the lunar eclipse. That date is important too. So, sorry, I'm recording and there's some people around and I don't want to lose momentum on this video. So if you hear ambient noise, try to ignore it. So point number 1 I've already made, related to a certain time period of last year, related to 2 specific dates of last year, Screw time period. It's that precise. Number two, the planet Mars, a planet of action, and where it is that we need to put a certain amount of attention and where we may have a certain amount of threat or danger, is already in this part of the chart where this eclipse is going to occur since May the 15th. Whether you like it or not, some of your energy has already been going in this direction. Number two, Mercury, the planet of communication, and Mercury will play a big role in the signs of Cancer and Leo very shortly, is going to be coming in here. It has already come here on June the 4th. So we have two planets already here. The Sun comes in to Cancer on June the 21st. It does this every year around that time. July the 2nd, we have the new moon solar eclipse. July the 3rd, the very next day, Venus comes into Cancer. Thank you, Venus. Venus likes Cancer. July the 7th, Mercury goes retrograde. In Leo, it'll move through Cancer, but it goes retrograde. July 19th, Mercury retrograde comes back into Cancer. July 31st, it goes direct, and August the 11th, it leaves Cancer. So the bottom line is, whatever it is that is happening, the July 2nd date is critical. The September 2nd date is critical this year, the week before, the week after. You don't have to look much wider than that. But we also have the planet Mercury, the messenger planet, that is going to be cleaning up things and sorting them out and making us revisit things and starting its own new cycle around this time as well. And Mercury, as I said, is first going to go into Leo, but then after all this stuff happens and the eclipse happens and the planets start to leave one by one and the sun starts to leave, Mercury is going to come back and say, okay, let's just sort this stuff out again. Let's revisit this stuff. Let's really make it clear what the eclipses are about again. All these dates I will put in the description box. Don't freak out about it. As these planets move forward, of course, they're going to move into the sign of Leo. And so Leo is where eclipses occurred in 2017 and 2018. And so some of the changes and events from 2017 and 18 are going to be here to be revisited as well. Right now, if you were to say, Abhi, this is a lot of information and we're going to try and figure out what this means, I'm going to do videos and I'm going to keep hanging out with you on this. Right now, all you need to do is to be aware of the following. For those of you who are interested, figure out where the sign of Cancer is in your chart. Those clients to whom I have sent PowerPoint versions of your chart, go back to those. You paid for them for a reason. And take a look at the house that Cancer sits in. These are eclipses where you're meant to lean into. That is where you will be evolving. That is the door you're meant to walk through. And all the eclipses of release have been doing is preparing you to walk through this door. Now, depending on where the eclipses are occurring, some of these eclipses could be, for some people, the eclipses could be in happier parts of the chart, and for some people, the eclipses could be in more stressful parts of the chart. But the bottom line is you're meant to go through these doors. You're meant to walk through them. Clue number one, and I'm starting to summarize this video. July 12th of last year, September 12th of last year. Any correlation, new themes, what to contend with, what to tackle since that time and indeed into next year, even the second half of next year. This is the second wave of 3 waves of eclipses that will hit us. July the 2nd of this year, the September 2nd date is going to be important. And here's the kicker. Since May the 15th, this part of the chart has already been active in terms of there can be a sense of energy needing to be diverted in this area, a sense of threat, a sense of combat, a sense of drive, a sense of direction, a sense of frustration. It's like the problem is being defined and solved. And since June the 4th, there has been communication and activity in this area of a mercurial nature. Messages, contracts, written, spoken, messengers coming in, people acting as messengers coming in. So that too is underway. The next step here is for the sun to come in here on June the 21st and really start to prepare for the July 2nd solar eclipse. So it's important for me to do this video now as opposed to wait till July to do it after the full moon in Sagittarius, because I want to start making these correlations now, because we're going to be talking about this eclipse around July the 2nd, around September the 2nd, and then later on in October and December and January, when the corresponding lunar eclipse will also happen in Cancer. In January. In January. I will put the exact date in the description. So here we are, folks. I am announcing that it is going to be make or break time, and June, but especially July and August, are going to be really important months to pay attention to with regard to accelerating change and helping us get to the next step, whatever that next step is. And these are not normal full moons and new moons. Some people feel the eclipse close to the date of the eclipse. Some people feel it 2 weeks after, or two months after in the case of a solar eclipse, which is what the July 2nd is, or 2 months before if it's a lunar eclipse. So the July 2nd date, you might feel it then, or the September 2nd date, you might feel it then. I typically feel it on the 2-month anniversary, but when it came to July the 12th of last year, I felt it right after that eclipse, the week after, as I thought I might, but I thought I might actually experience it in September, and it was not. For me, the message was right after that eclipse. I also have clients and friends who feel the eclipses right away. So there we go. I'm not going to keep rambling on about this. Let me do another summary. Since May the 15th, intimations of what it is that we're going to have to contend with after the July 2nd eclipse, and indeed in the second half of this year, have been made present to us. And since June the 4th, some of this activity has become much louder and more pronounced. And we are going to have a full moon in Sagittarius on the 17th of June. And yes, it will be a full moon, and there will be, in a week's time, this next week is going to see an increase in activity and pace till that full moon. But it is time to start getting ourselves in the mindset for a July and August of there's a word I've been using, of happenings, of things coming to a head, of change occurring or being instigated. And right now we're still closing out the eclipse period from January the 5th to July the 16th, but the groundwork for the July 2nd eclipse in the second half of this year is being laid. Remember, I've already told you, and my next video is going to be about this, but the eclipses and changes from 2017 and 2018 and the sign of Leo are also going to be revisited. The first of the planets to enter Leo is going to be entering on June the 26th. Mercury is going to go into Leo, where it's going to go retrograde on July the 7th, shortly after the eclipse. Fasten your seatbelts. All right, more to follow. Thank you. Oh, like, share if you find this information helpful, useful. Oh, look, they're drilling. Perfect time to stop. Like, share, subscribe to YouTube channel, click on the bell icon to get notified. The contact information feel free to contact me if you want a reading or want me to focus on your chart in some way, etc. Blah, 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 blah. More to follow soon. Bye.